Welcome to Beyond Sports. Well, we have a great episode lined up this week. I am your host, the Fitted Nuggets fan. With me is my co-host, Bob.
Hey.
Well, we have a few segments lined up. We have Nuggets Now to get us started. We're going to be covering this past week of the Nuggets action. Then we'll be moving on to another scintillating episode of Nuggets Knowledge.
Great word.
Great word. And even better segment. You know, every week I look forward to this. I think it's the trivia side of things. I think I just get really into that. But either way, we'll have a great segment of that for our second one. And then we'll be finishing out our week here with an interview with Parker Thomas. Really thankful to have him in the studio this week. Really great guy. You know, really wanted everyone to be able to check out that segment to finish out the show. But first, we're going to be covering the Nuggets for this past week here. So, you know, kind of a mixed bag. We're back to the 2-1, 3-1 consistency that we've typically seen throughout this entire season with the Nuggets. Starting off, Spurs at Nuggets, you know, it ended the way it should have ended. But, man, just don't ever expect the Nuggets to cover the spread. Let me tell you.
Yeah, for sure. I've never bet on it.
Yeah. I will say, though, before we dive too much into the Nuggets stats, I got to give a big shout-out to Wemby. You know, Wemby has proven that he is a very solid rookie, coming here with really high expectations. And personally, he's one of my favorite candidates for Defensive Player of the Year this year.
9 blocks.
9 blocks. Insane. And Jokic, to his credit, did a really good job of containing Wemby. Wemby shot pretty horribly. What was his stats on that?
9 for 29 from the field, 23 points, 15 rebounds, and 8 assists.
Yeah, I want the Nuggets to take full advantage of him not having a full roster around him, because once Wemby has a guy or two similar to what Jokic
tough.
has, it's going to be crazy. I mean, it's going to make the West insanely competitive, and it already is with teams in a similar trajectory like the Thunder and the Timberwolves. But not to get too sidetracked, you know, one thing that impressed me was Jokic really stepped up in this game. I've mentioned, you know, I want to say either last week or a couple of weeks ago, just needing him to be able to come in and drop 30-plus points in a game when it's close, and we need him to drop those points, and he did just that, 42, 16, and 6.
Yep.
It's exactly what we want from Jokic, so really happy with that. But, you know, the rest of the game, I just didn't like that they got it within 5.
I didn't either. They should have blown him away, but they just didn't. And I don't know. I think a lot of that had to do with the struggles coming from specifically Reggie Jackson and KCP. KCP had a really bad game, 1 for 8, and then he answered right back and had 2 really good games. Not criticizing him, but it just doesn't help when you're missing Jamal Murray. And you got to use your backup point guard, Reggie, who's not the best, unfortunately. Went 4 for 13 from the field, only had 9 points. Only had 3 assists, too, which I think that's something that we've kind of taken Reggie for granted, is he does normally do a great job playmaking whenever he's asked to start for Murray. And I think these last couple stretches of games without Murray, he just hasn't been able to playmake as well. And I think that's hurt the Nuggets a lot.
Yeah, Reggie looks like he's lost his rhythm on the offensive end. You know, coming to start
definitely.
this year, he came in hot. He looked great when Murray was out, especially in that starter role specifically.
He looked much better as a starter than he did as a bench player.
He transitioned back to the bench and just wouldn't produce.
But now he's just not doing that.
Now he can't do either.
Yeah.
And that's a big concern heading into these playoffs, especially when we're going to need somebody like that who is going to have to occasionally take the game over. I will say some of the positives, maybe not specifically from this game so much, but even in this game you can still kind of see the impact that Christian Braun has made. We're definitely starting to see Christian Braun return more to the form that we saw from him last year, which I think is huge. Personally, just with how he's played this whole year, it's been really tough watching that just not really improve year over year. Just kind of the same, especially regular season the same, but we're starting to see him ramp up. We're seeing him dial it in. 7 assists in this game, 5 points. Only shooting 1 for 5 isn't great, but that 7 assists I love to see. And he's just one of those guys who just kind of fills in the gaps.
Yeah, and I think he's incredibly important to the Nuggets championship run. Last year, I didn't know this. For some reason, I had just inflated his stats in my head, but he only averaged 3.2 points, 2.1 rebounds, and 0.6 assists during the entire playoff run last year.
Wow.
And I felt like he was a key part to all of that.
I think he really turned it on more towards the end.
I do too.
I think that's really kind of where that comes in. But still, I mean, that is a great statistic to pull up, especially when we're talking about somebody like Christian Brown, who's currently averaging significantly more than that. And we
Yeah.
have seen it. Like, I'm talking, sitting here now, saying it's
I mean, he was
not
like
necessarily a positive.
he was like 6th or 7th in Finals MVP betting odds at one point.
That's crazy.
And
I don't know about all that.
I mean, I didn't either. But he had those 2 great games against
Yeah,
Miami
people believed him.
in the first 2 games.
He did,
And-
and he was a big part of the wins. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. He showed up when we really needed him to.
I
and
think
I'm
that's
hoping he's going to do that again.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, to me, his impact greatly outweighed his stats, and I think I really hope he can hit it the same stride as he did last year.
I think we'll see that as well. And then Peyton Watson joining him. You know, Peyton Watson with
Yeah.
2 blocks versus Spurs. But moving on, now we look at the Clippers versus Nuggets. Clippers getting a very, very narrow victory, evening the series on the year. I don't know if I'm worried about the Clippers, but I'm also not worried about the Clippers. I mean, right now my dogs are Timberwolves and Suns. I don't want to see them in the playoffs. But the Clippers are showing that they're tough. I think with the score as close as it was, plus no Murray, I know they didn't have Kawhi. I think no Murray hurts us a lot more than it hurts the Clippers in that situation. I know Kawhi's great, don't get me wrong, but the Nuggets' dynamic and the flow of their team, especially playing teams like that, Murray's just that much more important. But one thing, it's just been all year. The bench.
Yeah, I mean they just didn't show up to this game really. Braun had another decent game. I mean, he was 7, 8, and 3 with a steal. He was also +7 in his minutes. And I should say, back to the Spurs game just real quick, Reggie Jackson was +8 in his minutes, so it wasn't all bad, but
Can't get too tight
Yeah.
into plus minus.
I know. But I just wanted to point that out. I don't want to hate on him too much. Anyways, Jokic had 36 in this game, 36, 17, and 10, which we rarely see that stat line, and he loses.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I just think missing Murray really, really hurts the team. And hopefully he can get back healthy, and I think he has. I mean, he had not a great game against Atlanta, but he came back and he played. So hopefully he's on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Murray's coming back in. Good time for us. Right in time for the playoffs. Getting a couple of games under his belt. Getting his groove back. You know, ready for round 1. I think the timing is good. And I like Coach Malone's commitment to making sure Murray was healthy. Murray, you know, obviously felt fine after that tweaking of an ankle. But us and the rest of the staff know that can be bad. And I like
and
their
then it
willingness.
extended to his knee because he's been out with some knee soreness and knee pain after that ankle injury. So it just goes to show how you tweak one thing, it could lead to another.
Yeah, and an unsung hero from this Clippers Denver Nuggets game, Aaron Gordon.
Yeah.
Being, you know, the great teammate that he is, 18 points, 2 blocks, a steal, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, just really stuffing the stat sheet across the board. And again, I know a lot of fans are going to say this out there, the slip at the end. Now, you had an interesting take on that.
I just don't
thought
know
he
what
makes the bucket.
I don't know what his plan was. The way that
Dunk the ball.
Well,
That's his plan
I
every
get that,
time.
but the way the way he took that step, he was under the basket, and there was a guy, maybe 2 on him, and like he slipped when he got to that step. But I didn't see an angle that he could have taken that shot, and I'm fine with him taking that shot. I think he deserves to take that shot. I'm in 9 times out of 10. I don't think that's the end goal for him. I just think the stride might have been a little too long. Because even if he would have landed, I don't know where he was going.
Yeah, and you know he might have been looking to draw the foul. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah,
of
there is a
things
lot of stuff.
that could have come from that, and just kind of the way his body language moves. I think he was trying to draw that foul. I just don't like Aaron Gordon with the ball in that situation, but I don't want to take away from his output in this game. You know, definitely a reliable guy. KCP stepping up to the plate. Kind of odd to know that he's broke his scoring record for the Nuggets twice now. He had 22 the other night, and improved from there. And then just last night, or against the Hawks, 24 points.
Okay.
So pretty cool to see.
Nice.
Yeah, so, I mean, with this Clippers game, I mean, the biggest concern is letting the Clippers be this close. It's hard to really judge this game without Kawhi, without Murray.
MPJ hasn't really, unfortunately, he didn't really shoot well against the Spurs. didn't shoot well against the Clippers, and I think that's the biggest thing when Murray's out is we need him to step up a little bit, and in these past 2 games he hasn't, and I think that's why they've been that close.
Yeah, and we're looking at the bench, and you've got 5 total players who have gotten minutes, and only 2 people have scored, and only 1 person scored more than 1 basket.
Yeah.
And I think Peyton Watson,
And he shot 33%.
he's got to be more aggressive. Yeah, and Christian Brown getting 9 shots and only being 33%, not
Yeah.
great. But I just love to see the aggressiveness from him. I'd like to see more of that from Peyton Watson. But the bench is just a mess, and hopefully Murray coming in can get them in sync. I think Reggie Jackson, while not my favorite option off the bench, he is an important option off the bench for our team, and his success off the bench means success for the rest of the team.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think a lot of times we talk about how good our bench defense is with Peyton Watson and Christian Brown, but 32 points from the Clippers bench this game. And that's not good.
Yeah, Powell coming off the bench for them is big.
Yeah.
But moving on, now we're looking at the Atlanta Hawks. This is the win we needed to see versus a team like the Hawks.
Definitely.
The Hawks always have some toughness, but obviously not the same level of competitiveness that the Denver Nuggets possess and just the talent overall right now. So this should have been an open and shut case, and that's exactly what we got. We got a 32-point victory against the Hawks, and I love to see that, especially when we look at a game like the Spurs, where that's a team that should have had a similar ending.
Yeah.
Based on their record, and now
And how the game was going early on.
Yeah, there was a lot of control in that game, so it's just good to see them get that rebound. Good overall production from everyone. Like I said, Contavious got 24 points plus 21 on the stat sheet. MPJ with 20. Good to see 2 people ahead of Jokic on the scoring sheet. Christian Brown with the start for this game.
Making the start.
Not so great production, but solid. 2 for 3, 1 for 1 on 3, 3 rebounds and assist. So he's making the most of his time, plus 13 as well. So just a good game to see from the guys. This is the win that we needed. Peyton Watson with 13, Reggie Jackson with 18 off the bench. That type of Nuggets team is going to be really tough to beat.
Jokic with the classic 19, 14, and 11 triple-double.
Yeah,
just some
insane.
Random numbers.
Yeah. And that's just even further proof for Jokic.
In a 32-point win, mind you.
Yeah, one thing that was a little concerning, 6 for 13 for him. I mean, he's
Yeah.
usually like a 70% and above guy.
Yeah.
And so seeing him kind of shoot a little worse, I know his hand's been hurting. Hopefully,
I think
that doesn't
Capella's
cost him.
pretty physical and pretty big.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
honestly, he probably just was like, you know what, we're dominating this team. I'm hitting everyone with passes this game.
Yeah, I think it's more so just the being under 50% shooting for me.
Yeah, I understand.
And
that.
I know the bigger guys can sometimes give Jokic some problems, but
no one can guard him when he wants to turn it on.
right, exactly, yeah. And he didn't need to. 32
and that's
point win.
that's
Jokic
just why I'm
isn't
not
out
worried.
there to be famous or score a bunch of points or get talked about. He's there to get the victory, and so
Yeah.
he let the game come to him and his teammates. Did a really great job. Plus 19 in the stat sheet. Really, really good overall. I mean, this again, I can't say this enough. This is just the type of victory that we want to see from the Nuggets, especially when they're playing a Hawks team.
100%.
And, they don't have much of a test coming up with the Jazz. I mean, every game's important, especially with what we've got coming up. But the real concern is the Timberwolves on the horizon.
Yeah, I think that's going to be tough. And to kind of keep going with the Hawks game, Reggie had 18 and 3 assists. So if he can keep playing like that to that level while coming off the bench, I think we'll be okay against the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I think the key for Reggie Jackson's success is intelligent shot making.
Yeah.
Ensuring that he's taking the right shot, because some of the stuff I've seen from him, especially most recently, and that's been concerning for me, is just his shot selection has just been terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible shot selection, trying to be the guy when he's 5 or 6 slots down on the scoring.
And 5 or 6 years past that.
Right, exactly. So for me, it's like you need to know when you're hitting and when you're not, and you need to take the right
You need to
shots.
go from there.
And this was a great game for him. 24 minutes,
Yeah.
18 points, 7 for 13, 3 for 3, or 3 for 6 from three-pointer. So that's the kind of game we need to see from Jackson. If we're gonna have a
Especially come the
successful
playoffs. Yeah.
That's the thing, is he going to be able to do this against a top team?
I'm not sure. And
I'm not sure either.
speaking of, is he going to be able to do this against a playoff team? Peyton Watson, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 blocks, and a steal.
5 blocks is crazy.
Played great and
Yeah.
was 6 for 8 from the field. I mean, are we going to get that in the playoffs from Peyton Watson, or are we going to get the Clippers game from Peyton Watson where he has got 2 points and he's 1 for 3?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's going to be a big question mark.
He's
I
young.
Think it's going
I
to be
mean-
sometimes, second year in the league, and I think that he is such an important spark plug off the bench, especially on that defensive end, because, man, the blocks that he does produce are just
They're
electric.
nuts.
They're nuts, and they get the team going, they get the bench going, and I think Reggie and him both. It's like Peyton Watson on the defensive end, Reggie on the offensive end, and then just ensuring that Christian Brown and Watson get a chance to contribute.
Yeah, definitely.
This has been Nuggets Now with Beyond Sports. Follow us on social media, Beyond Sports 5280. Call into the show live at 720-446-8463. We've got a great edition of Nuggets Knowledge coming up after this short break. Tune in after this. Welcome back to Beyond Sports. Well, that was a terrific edition of Nuggets Now, but we are moving on to this week's episode of Nuggets Knowledge. So Bob is up this week. For the listeners out there who aren't familiar with Nuggets Knowledge, what we do is we pick a player in history, either myself or Bob are picking the player, and then we surmise all their stats and achievements and essentially give that to the other person, and that person gets one guess to try and figure out who that player might be. So far, we're doing pretty good. Better than I thought we would do, to be completely honest. But Bob thinks he's going to stump me today, so Bob's going to read off some stats here, and I'm going to get one guess to try and figure out who this player is going to be. So, Bob, what do you got?
Okay, so I think the reason I'm going to be able to stump you today is because there's just no I mean, we've done it before, but there's no real accolades that he's achieved throughout his career. He played 6 years for the Nuggets, 303 games. He was on the team for 7 seasons, and he missed an entire season due to injury. He made the playoffs twice in Denver, and he was actually drafted 6th overall, not to Denver but to the New York Knicks.
Okay, interesting.
His nickname is the Rooster, which I didn't know, so I'm
Huh. Interesting.
he scored his career high 47 in a game, and it was while he was playing for the Nuggets as well.
And what was that career high? 47?
47 points in a double overtime loss to the Mavs.
Okay.
He actually, outside of basketball, worked as a model for Armani. That's really the only thing that I could find that he's done outside of basketball.
Okay, kind of interesting.
Yeah, his career stats are 5.6 points per game, 2.2 rebounds per game, 1.1 assists per game. But his Nuggets stats are much better, and they are 15.9 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 2.1 assists.
Huh.
So he definitely played his best basketball while he was on the Nuggets.
Interesting.
Really, the only accolade that he received was he got .014 of all NBA voting shares in 2015. So he was on the NBA or on the all NBA voting list, not anywhere close to being all NBA.
Weird.
But I think you would. I think this is a very household name.
Yeah. I mean, any additional things? I think I might have an idea.
Just to give his play style a little bit, he was second in 3-point attempted in 2010 with 488, and that's really the only season high that he's come close to achieving.
Yeah. This could be a tough one, but I think I know this guy. I want to go with my instincts telling me Gary Harris.
It is not Gary Harris.
Not
it
Gary
is
Harris.
Danilo Gallinari.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought with Gallinari the career stats would be better.
I honestly did too. I was
He
shocked.
crossed my mind, but it's just the career stats is what got me.
Yeah.
I thought Gary Harris was leading that team. Now, it was definitely the 47 points narrowed it down for me quite a bit. And then you combine that with the year of 2015. But I'm surprised. I
Yeah.
really thought it was Gary Harris.
I honestly thought Gallinari had a much better career stat line. He has
He's been
on
paid
six,
like he had.
Yeah, he got paid from. I didn't realize this. He did his rookie contract at the Knicks for 3 years, and then we were his first team outside of the Knicks after his rookie contract. So he got a very big contract from Denver, and honestly, his career stats were 16, 5, and 2. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, not bad at all.
not terrible. And the Nuggets weren't good then either. I should also say that.
Yeah. The 7 seasons narrowed
They
it
were fun.
down. And that's kind of what almost made Gary Harris not the pick for me. Because I forget how many seasons he played.
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
But Gallinari, what a selection there.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't. For some reason, I thought he was an all-star at one point.
No.
I don't know why.
Yeah, he just great media team.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking the same thing. I always thought he was more of a productive player. Us and a bunch of NBA GMs think the same thing apparently. Because what is he even doing now?
He's on the Bucks right now.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
he's
He's
actually-
hurt though, right?
I'm not 100% sure on that one. He's been on 3 teams this year. Started out in Detroit. I'm not sure of the second team he went to, but he's now on the Bucks.
Interesting.
And he's been on 6 teams in 6 years since leaving Denver.
Italian basketball player. Very, very interesting guy. 2008 draft.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was such a high pick.
I mean, he came out gunning. That's for sure. It was impressive to see how well he played early on. I mean, his first season only 6 points per game, but then the next year improving by almost 10 points per game, 14th in most improved that year. That's pretty
Okay.
interesting. And that was second year with the New York Knicks. And then he basically averaged about 15 points per game with them. His best season, he averaged 19.5.
Yeah.
And then another year.
And that was for the Nuggets.
Yeah, and then for the Clippers, he averaged 19.8.
Oh, I did not see that.
Yeah, and he was most improved, 11th in the most improved voting that year. Kind of wild that he'd be up for most improved twice in his career.
Yeah.
He didn't really dip very much. Like, he went on the Nuggets 19 points per game, then dropped down to 18, then 15, and then bounced back up to 19, but a 4.5 point per game improvement.
Yeah, and I believe that 15 points per game was like right after his injury where he was out for the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as games played, he has never played a full season.
Yeah, he's
Almost
definitely
81 games his second year.
I mean, 303 games in 6 years is not technically in 7 years actually is not great.
Yeah, tore his ACL in 2013. Came back really good in that 2015 season, though.
All right, so where would you rank him as an all-time Denver Nugget then? Because I feel like this is a tough one. Because Gallinari is awesome. I mean, during the dark times, he was a good player to have.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a guy who never eclipsed 20 points per game, though. Didn't really achieve anything. Did they make the playoffs?
He did make the playoffs twice with Denver, never got out of the first round.
So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of tough here. How did he do in the playoffs with Denver? 12 points per game in 2010 and 2011, and only 13 points per game in 2011 and 2012.
Not
And
great.
He played better during the regular season in those years. Yeah, both years. That's not great. He took about a 2 point per game downfall. So, I don't know. For the Nuggets, I mean,
Would
What
you
did
put
you
him
have in
ahead
mind?
of J.R. Smith or Nick Van Exel?
I don't think so.
I don't think I would either.
I definitely wouldn't, especially with just how his career has gone. I mean, like, he came in and he's done his job and he's made a career out of playing in the NBA. Like, nothing against Gallinari at all. He was definitely electric on the Nuggets, though. I don't want to dog him too much. Definitely a great Nugget. But there's just been so many other players.
Yeah, I
And-
definitely agree.
And when you think about how many guys are scoring 20 points per game a year that have come throughout the history, and Gallinari's thing was scoring, right? Like, that was always his thing.
Yeah, he was not the best defender. He wasn't terrible, but that was not a strong suit.
Yeah, not much assists to speak of. Never really getting past 3 assists per game. Never really getting over 7 rebounds per game. Really hardly ever over 5. Not really much more than 6. Only one season was 6. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say it's been an unimpressive career because he's had an NBA career. I mean, he's played on a team officially every single year since 2008. I mean, that's impressive. 16-year career.
Yeah, that is very impressive.
But when we're talking about the Nuggets specifically, I don't know. Where do we even start? Top 200 maybe?
Of the Nuggets?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where
That's
did
what I'm
we
saying.
put Fareed? Because I'd put him in front of Fareed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Fareed did FIBA, and he had some college accolades. We're talking about the Nuggets, so. Yeah, I mean, we put Fareed at 75.
I feel like I'd put him at, I don't know, 70 maybe then.
70?
Because I would say Gallinari is better than Fareed. As
Yeah.
much as I love Kenneth Fareed and how
I would say
exciting
so.
he was.
I would say maybe just, yeah. I mean, Fareed averaged a 12 point per game production. So, okay, well, what are you thinking then?
I think 70. I think right around 70. Maybe even 60.
Okay, 60. I'd say 65.
65, I think that's
Yeah.
fair.
And then, I mean, if we're going to expand it out to the whole NBA, I mean, I don't even know what this would look like.
Yeah. I'm not very sure. He's a well-known player. I mean, he's
Yeah.
known as a good player, I would say pretty decently, but I don't think I could put him.
He averaged double digits for 5 separate teams.
How many seasons?
6 seasons with the Nuggets, 3 with the Knicks, 2 with the Hawks, 2 with the Clippers, 1 with the Thunder, 1 with Washington, 1 with Milwaukee, 1 with the Pistons. All right, so I think one way to help categorize him is the length of time he's played in the league. 16 years in the league is impressive in itself. Whether or not he has accolades, there's a lot of other players who've come before him. I think that's a way to kind of separate him.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where I'd start, though, with that number.
I'm not really sure. And
I could do our old
it would
method.
definitely be in the thousands. I know that.
Well, what's 70 times 30? 65 times 30.
65 times. So 1950. Would you put him in the top 2,000? I think
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I would. I mean, he had a good stint with several teams.
6 overall pick.
Yeah, good money on his contract, 16 years in the
years in the
NBA.
NBA.
I mean, that's definitely an impressive feat in itself. Not a lot of guys have been able to achieve that in their career. There's been plenty of guys who will come in and do 20 points per game or more, but do they last 16 years? And
Fizzle
obviously, yeah, and just him being able to make his career and be so well known at the same time, making that impact on several teams. And I would guarantee outside of the Nuggets, some of these other teams also have big fans of Gallinari from some of the explosive seasons he's delivered with them as well. Because he was a big three-point shooter kind of right when that started getting big.
A little early on, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit sooner, but a little bit ahead of its time, kind of thing. But yeah, I could see 1950. I'd be okay with that. 1950 overall.
Honestly, I think I'd move it up. I think I'd put him around 17.
17.
1,700.
Are we?
obviously.
Is that like heavily based on his time?
I think so. The
Yeah,
the
16
longevity
years is
just-
pretty crazy.
The longevity kind of does it.
Because that's
for
like
me.
health too. 2 ACL tears.
Yeah.
Like coming back
A lot
from
of
that
injuries, being able to come back from
That's
all
crazy.
of those and continue to play. I mean,
at a high level.
and he's a big guy. It's not easy for
Yeah.
giant forwards and centers to get injured, and then come back and be the same person. I mean,
Yeah.
Greg Oden he pretty much fizzled out of the league after 3 years because he just could never stay healthy. And
Yeah, you always wish that would have worked out for
I
him.
know it sucks because if that wouldn't have been, who knows how great of a player he could have been.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree. 16 years in the NBA is an extremely impressive feat, and he's not retired yet. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
I
a
mean,
guy
he's
who's
still
still
playing.
active. Yeah, so he could continue to play.
I wanted the Nuggets to sign him earlier this year.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been. I really would have liked that as
I
well.
would have liked that at the deadline.
Yeah. I mean, for like a 13th, 14th guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, why not? I mean, we got DJ.
might as well.
Yeah, just bring back a fun nugget to have on the team. So, all right. So, what's the official number then? What are we saying?
I think 1,700
1,700 for Danilo Gallinari.
for NBA all-time list.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we can live with 1,700. If you, the fans, disagree or agree, go ahead and give us a call at 720-446-8463. Give us your case. Tell us why you think Gallinari should be higher or lower on the list. This has been Nuggets Knowledge with Beyond Sports. Follow us on social media, Beyond Sports 5280. Feel free to call in live or text the show at 720-446-8463. We have a terrific interview coming up here with Parker Thomas, third-generation hat maker. Going to be a fun one. Coming up after this break. Welcome back to Beyond Sports. Well, that was a great edition of Nuggets Knowledge, but up now we've got a special guest spotlight with my special guest here, Parker Thomas. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Parker. So for those of our listeners out there who don't know Parker, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So I'm a third generation hat shaper from Denver, Colorado. My dad's from Texas, where he shaped hats as a young kid all the way up until he was an adult. And my grandpa shaped hats for 65 plus years till the day he died. He was shaping hats.
Wow.
My dad owns a hat company called the Cow Lot. It was based in Texas, and he took it over, and now it's in Brighton, Colorado. And kind of have a different style than my dad's. He's more traditional cowboy hat shapes.
Okay.
And I still wanted to make some more like fashion fedora styles. So I broke away from him and started coming up with my own designs and shapes. And, all my friends wanted a hat from me at the beginning. And then now I'm shaping hats all around the country, getting booked out for different events. Go up to a lot of dude ranches where corporate events will book me to make hats for all their employees as a gift. And from there, I opened up a shop in Cherry Creek. It's inside a women's boutique called Haven. But you can go online to my website, www.hatsbyparkerthomas.com. You can book an appointment there, book a little date night for your significant other, or you can do a private party inside my shop as well. We can fit about 20 to 30 people inside the shop. And, we'll provide some alcohol for you guys, drink, some champagne while you get a custom hat.
Oh, that's really cool. That sounds like a perfect experience. And I really like when you highlighted kind of saying your own style, because I will say, like, not that I'm necessarily a hat connoisseur by any means, but I would say that your style is very notable and unique from, I guess, what you would call the standard hat. What would you kind of call that style? Do you have a name for it, or what would you describe it as?
Yeah, kind of. We like to call it Western chic.
Okay.
So you kind of, still a felt hat. When you get a hat shaped, it starts as an open crown, so it's a blank. So you can cut the brim down and then shape the crown into what's called a teardrop or like a fedora crown.
Right. Oh, so for like the top of it.
Yep. So then if you want to shape the sides up, they call that like the taco of the hat.
Okay.
And that'll just change it to be more of like a cowboy shape if you start shaping the brim.
Okay. So when you have these people over, are they making the hats like start to finish with some guidance? Is that kind of what the setup is?
Yeah. So we have kind of two routes you can take. You can either get one fully customized. Usually those hats are made out of like a rabbit beaver material. The more beaver in a hat, the higher quality it is.
Oh, okay.
It'll just be more malleable. And but we have some pre-shaped hats that are made of wool. They're still like a heavier wool, so they're gonna still be a quality hat, but they'll either start as a cowboy shaped hat or you'll start with a fedora shaped hat. So one's more of a flat brim, one's more tacoed, and then you can decorate it with hat bands. Branding's huge right now, so you can do your initials or you can get your wedding date on